Welcome to the Three Technoteers. I'm Steven and I'm joined by Tony and Chilton. And Tony has a crazy story for us today. So go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, so basically, kind of hitting the headline news on these scientists. At first, there was 11 scientists that either have gone up missing or have just died, and not at an older age either. Most of them in their 30s. And recently, one had posted up a video talking about this conspiracy based that they, that they find it wild that it was these scientists that are passing away and stuff. And ironically, 3 days after he did this like posting, which was also a part of a podcast deal that he was talking about it on, he ended up passing away 3 days after that.
Okay, so
What they're
wait, Tony, I know you got guns. Chilton, you own guns, right? Because like we're doing this. So
If he doesn't, he's got neighbors.
yeah.
I've been around and had guns my entire life. Yes, I live in Texas.
Okay,
You live
good.
in Texas. I wasn't gonna say it, so
Yeah.
I don't talk about the guns I have because that's one of the number one things people get stolen around here.
That makes
So
sense, yeah.
yeah, it's
touche.
very very easy to buy and sell, and then and so yeah, so a few years ago there was a long string of break-ins around the neighborhood, and they were all going after guns that people had talked about online, basically.
Yeah,
So
nice.
I just,
Yeah. All
I,
right. Well, everyone ignore all of this. This didn't happen. Anyways, Tony, so those
Yeah.
those scientists, like
Yeah, so
that's
the
pretty crazy.
scientists that what they're kind of talking about there, ironically, a couple of them are in Alabama and in Huntsville, actually. But they are tied to U.S. sensitive information on the U.S. nuclear and aerospace engineering. And the one that they keep bringing up, I'm trying to find her name here. Uh, let's see. Where'd she go? Here we go. Amy Eskridge, born in 87, but she passed away in 22. Um, a part of these scientists going missing, a lot of her videos and stuff are coming back up. And what they're finding out was like some of the last few videos that she's posted up, she's talking about how she wouldn't do anything to her and that someone had approached her and was just like, hey, if you keep talking about this stuff, which by the way, what she's been talking about is that zero point energy and
Which
this anti-gravity.
what is 0 point energy? Like what is that?
Basically, that you're putting in less and getting out more, right? Because that
Oh, so
defies
like
the
like
our
fusion
physics,
fusion
right?
energy.
Yeah, fusion
Okay.
energy. It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like that. But basically, it sounds like a lot of it is sound and magnets from what little research that I've done, and and then of course this anti-gravity, right? So being able to hover and do all that stuff without a propulsion. Um, but some of the videos that have come up are showing her and she's, like in her house and she's talking about being targeted and stuff. And she's like showing like how something happened. Like she was writing this paper or whatever. One that sticks out here recently was like she's writing this paper, she's doing all this, typing it all out, but her hands look like they had like radioactive, like almost, it looks like a sunburn, right? Like and she's just talking about how she would never kill herself and all that stuff. And I find that pretty crazy that two of them out in Huntsville, uh,
And these are like
uh,
legit people, not just like
legit people. Yeah, like you can go on Facebook right now and look up Amy Eskridge and find her Facebook page. Like she's on there, and
wow.
yeah, so it's just like some of this stuff, and we're on that brink too, like kind of getting out of, I don't want to say out of our tech stuff, like we usually discuss, but more so like the whole process of like the aliens and extraterrestrial life and stuff like that. But one thing that sticks out to me for her is that uh Amy was talking about how they don't reference people, or I should say people. They don't reference aliens as in like they call them like P-47 and P-52. And she's saying something in one of these interviews that they are time hoppers and they're humans from the future. And apparently something has happened where some catastrophic Armageddon thing happens. We all go underground and we're there for thousands of years. And then they have formed this like time machine and have come back. And some of these other scientists are looking at it going, okay, is this a possibility that like in thousands of years, what would we look like as cave dwellers, right? Like what comes to mind for me is like the horror flick, The Descent. So like if you've ever seen that where they go into this cave and here it is, these miners that got
Oh,
lost, but
I remember that
they,
movie. It was pretty good.
yeah, just oh yeah.
Bored out of my mind watching that movie. I don't think I even finished it, honestly.
It was good. It was a good thriller, right? Like and so but the concept was like, you become nocturnal. So like you can
Yeah.
only like see in the dark. Your eyes are blackened. You lose all your hair. It's not necessary anymore. Uh, stuff like that. And so that's they're kind of comparing her notes
Oh,
to.
okay,
It's like
okay.
now you have black eyes, you are hairless, and you're, I don't know, super skinny, I guess. Like, and so people are referencing into like an alien concept
I mean, there has
into
been
that
a
stuff.
lot
So
more talk about aliens and stuff lately, like just like coming from people in power and like people you wouldn't expect to be talking about aliens, you know?
right.
So I would not be surprised if something is going on. Like I wouldn't
Well,
be surprised
now
at all.
they don't call them UFOs anymore. I think they're called was it UPA?
Yeah,
Something phenomenon
UAPs,
or
Yeah,
UAP,
UAP,
sorry,
yeah,
UAP.
yeah,
Yeah, UAP. So they're calling them UAPs and but then they're like, they're releasing all this, footage and stuff from, oh, this is like, 2007 and 2013. And then like, you got these objects that are like making 90-degree turns and they're like, we're going like 250 mile an hour and it just hangs a
yeah.
hard right. You know,
No,
um,
there's been a lot of weird stuff spotted by like pilots and like even astronauts have spotted some weird stuff that like literally is totally unexplainable. Like not just like unexplainable like, oh, how did the electromagnetism do that? But like actually unexplainable like, well, that might have been fucking aliens. Like
yeah. So yeah, so it just makes me really curious on if
wow.
there's going to be some kind of like major announcement or something. Because like the other thing, it's always been the rush of getting clean and clear energy, right? Like China has like their plasma generator running the longest, and I want to say they just broke the record at like
yeah, like
7 seconds.
I thought it was like
And
30
so
seconds or something
or
like
maybe
that.
maybe it was. Maybe like when it first started it was 7 seconds and now it's like at 30 seconds and like they're getting to that point. And so the clean energy and maybe there's more things to it than just that. So I think a lot of it I know we covered it probably 4 episodes ago, but and we had talked about, levitation and sound and using sound to levitate objects and stuff. And like they hit the certain frequency where they're able to hold water droplets and stuff like that. And I think I had mentioned something about like instead of doing a vehicle wheel well or instead of vehicle tires, in the wheel well, we do like micro speakers. So then you're able to use some kind of sound propulsion and be able to do that kind of thing. I think that'd be something to try. I think that'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, it'd be so sweet. Like,
Jetsons,
dude,
baby,
man,
Jetsons.
I just want the damn hoverboard from Back to the Future. Like, give me that and
Yeah,
I'm good. Like, we
that'd
don't
be
need any
cool.
more tech than that. Give me that and I'm happy.
Yeah.
So, so one of my favorite weird. So, normally, when I hear any kind of thing like this, if I don't know anyone involved, I tend to think that it's some kind of conspiracy kind of thing, right? But I did know I had a really good professor in college in 1991 named Dr. David Otway Ray, and you can look him up, and he is now considered a bit of a quack. But at the time, um, there were a lot of things about him that were that made me think he knew his stuff. He certainly knew electronics. There was another student that was trying to build an amplifier, and he basically sketched the schematics for a really powerful amplifier and harmonic system thing on a back of a napkin. Right in the middle of class, when this kid was talking about this, he was like, "Wait, hang on, let me tell you how to build that." And he scratched all this stuff out. The kid went on. About a year later, he came back and told me that it was perfect, that everything about the schematic was correct, and it worked just great, which was cool.
Yeah.
And I know that, if you have an understanding of electronics, that's probably the kind of thing you could probably do. For me, it was impressive, but he supposedly worked with the U.S. government on one project. And I'm not going to say too much about it in case he's telling the truth, but it was a directed energy weapon. And he told us about it, and that it had been tested in Houston, and that they basically would fire this thing up in a warehouse and point it at the block next to them and let it rip. And then they would go out and evaluate how it basically just look at the people around there and see how it affected them, because they
What the
weren't supposed to be
fuck,
testing it on the general public,
bruh?
but they didn't know any other way to do it, to get the information they needed. So what it did was, uh, he described it at the time. I guess the best description would be kind of like a microwave, like similar to the microwave. But he said that the effect was that it was disorienting, and then on top of that, it would later result in an increase, a noticeable spike in crime activity in that area.
Weird.
And yeah, so
Did
so
it
then
keep them warm at least?
well,
Microwave, you know?
here's the funny part about that. He initially called it, and he said that it was detectable with an infrared, with anything that could detect infrared radiation. And so that made me first
So it was
think, oh,
putting
he's
off
like
heat.
yeah, well, that's what I thought. I was like, he's talking about like an infrared weapon. And I asked him about that, and he said, "No, it's not infrared. It's just that's the result. That's the result of it interacting with elements in the environment.
Yeah.
That it's actually microwave based." So that was way before I heard about the Havana weapon or anything like that. This was in '91, and
What's
I kind of
that?
blew it off. But the other thing that I blew off was this idea. He told me that, yeah, also, the same team that I worked with, we built these ceramic guns that can disassemble and they flip open and stuff like that. Well, that gun's on the, but I think that's the I don't want to say the gun name. I don't think I'm right about the gun name, but I am fairly sure I've seen that weapon actually in use now. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't know if it's a ceramic one, but his idea, the point of it at the time was, ceramic weapons get through metal detectors,
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
it wouldn't be able to fire the same kind of round that a normal gun would.
So I guess this
That there
was
were some
before
specifics about
3D
it.
printers or whatever.
Yeah, this is
Because
way
like
before 3D
the
printers,
3D
right?
printer would be the modern equivalent of that, yeah. Or 3D printed
Exactly. Yeah,
gun
yeah.
would. Yeah.
But
So what's the Havana weapon?
so in Cuba, there's this weird thing that's happened. Um, and I don't know the details of it. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know that there's a weapon that supposedly U.S. diplomats would go over there. They'd spend some time in Cuba. All of a sudden, they would feel sick, and they would have to go home, and they would have all these weird symptoms,
Oh, I
and they
think
all have
I've
the
heard
same
about
symptoms.
this. Yeah.
Now, fast forward to about a year ago, I think it was before we invaded wherever to steal the president down there in South America. Um, there was a supposedly the Russians had developed this technology, and that's what they were testing in Havana, was testing it on U.S. diplomats. And there was a rumor going around, I think 4chan, that the U.S. had bought one of these weapons from Russia and that they were going to use it. And then you read about that, the invasion, and it sounds like they used it. It sounds like that's exactly what they used. Havana weapon. And yeah, the Havana syndrome weapon. Yeah. And so a lot of people are saying that did they use something like that, a sonic device, perhaps something that could subdue people at a distance to subdue Maduro's bodyguards, among other things. And
Oh,
who
huh.
knows? But they're saying that it's a microwave weapon also. So that was the funny thing to me, though, was that they're saying that this is a Russian microwave weapon. Well, this one was American made. I mean, it was American made, like, down in Houston kind of thing. And it wasn't, according to Dr. Ray, it wasn't complicated. It was just a matter of building a large enough one and being willing to build something that you knew would harm people, basically. Um,
Yeah.
so it's interesting, but then but you know what though, and this is, I know this is just me deflecting and saying, uh, please, ultra sentient beings from the future, don't come to my house. I'm harmless. I'd just like to point out that Dr. Ray also went on to write an entire book about numerology in the Bible, and then later
Oh,
he was big time creationist, Ken, whatever his name is, that built the arcs. He was a big friend of his. There's a bunch of his later, bunch of the videos you can find online are all of him talking about the arc and stuff like that. Um, so, maybe he's just a crazy guy. That's all. Yeah, crazy. I'm willing to chalk everything he said up to this guy was completely batshit crazy, and in no way does this endanger me to talk about him publicly. And he's no longer alive. Passed away a few years ago.
hmm.
Um, and but I'll say this: there was a he had he taught us calculus, and then he had a special class for the next semester that I don't even remember what the hell it was called. It was something goofy like advanced mathematics or something like that. And every day it was him talking about crazy shit that he did, just batshit crazy stuff that he's done with, either the government or one of the jobs he had. Something, it was always something weird. And then he went off to, he was a member of the Royal Academy of Mathematicians, had a bunch of degrees. And then after that was in A&M at Galveston in 91. And I think in 92, he went to Russia to teach at some nuclear school there. And then he came back to the United States a few years later. So I don't know. I've never been able to get a bead on whether or not he was um, batshit crazy or telling the truth about some stuff that we weren't supposed to know about.
Well, now I'm starting to wonder about all the crap the hippies say. Like, you gotta get your, you gotta correct your frequencies and vibrations. Well, dude, they're literally like sending damn microwave uh signals and stuff to people and like literally affecting how they act and stuff. So hippies are on to something, I guess. Like
Who knows?
literally.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean,
It's hard to say. The line between, look, I mean, I'll be honest with you. But if you told me 10 years ago that I would say to anyone, um, last night the AI lied to me about having backed up any of the stuff on this virtual reality project,
Yeah.
and I lost, like 5 hours of work, and that's a hell of a lot of work to lose, these days. And it's all the AI lying to me, and then it finally came clean, and I'm really mad at it. If you told me that I would be saying that with a straight face, I would I think you're nuts. So um, at this point, I'm willing to just go, oh, we'll wait and see. If the aliens show up, it'll just be like, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah. No, at this point, literally, there's very, very little that would surprise me as far as like events,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
very
just,
little.
oh, well, it was bound to happen eventually.
Yep.
I'm glad I got to be here to experience it.
That's true. I really do
yeah.
hope that when the aliens emerge from their cocoons or come down from the ships or transport in front of us or whatever, that I'm here. That's the one thing I'm kind of waiting on. I want to see that one.
Yeah,
That'd
like
be pretty
dude,
cool.
that would suck for like to die the week before it happens or something. You know,
Right.
like, man,
Exactly. Yep.
how disappointing. Like, what would be the point in even of living the life to start with? Like, damn. No, never
Yep.
mind. That sounds bad, but like
That does sound
Well,
it sounds so bad.
yeah, there's so much cool stuff that I hope I get to see. That's all I gotta say. But it looks like I will because it looks like everything is gonna happen. So that's cool.
Yeah, dude, that's
Yeah,
the thing. Yeah, no, it looks like literally with how because so much of the stuff that like our generations want to see is like technology based and stuff. So
Yeah.
with how fast technology is improving and just keeps improving
just
even faster,
just
like dude, like
the
we
last
are gonna
five
see
years.
everything.
Yeah, just the last 5 years has been
Yeah,
such a dramatic jump
yeah.
that like I'm excited to see like not just me as an adult, like my child. I'm excited to see what he when he becomes an adult, what it's gonna be like.
Yeah, dude, like,
You
because we
know,
went from like 5 years ago, like ChatGPT was some project that no one knew about, that just some
they
company
shut
was
it
working
off.
on, you
They
know?
it talked
And
to
then,
I,
itself.
and
It
then
shut it
like
off.
fucking, and now you can literally run an AI on your own computer that is smarter than most people in the world.
Yeah,
so I want to brag on my daughter for a second here. She this just cracks me up. When I think about open AI and chat GPT and everything that we're doing now, the first time I ever heard about this, I was talking to her and she's like, "Hey dad, how do I extract all of the text from a game from an APK on Android?" And I said, I don't know. I kind of know. This is kind of what I do, some reverse engineering stuff. And I was like, I don't know if there's an easy way to do it, but there's some ways we could do that. So I kind of looked into it for one of the games she was working on. And I said, why do you want to do this? And she said, oh, I want to feed it to this thing. We got this, me and my friends, we've been using this thing online. It's open AI. They got this thing that you can, a sandbox thing, and you can have it, you give it some text and then you tell it that you're that person, and then it acts like that person. And I had no clue what she was talking about. But what she was talking about was before ChatGPT, OpenAI very briefly had a deal with a sandbox, with sandboxed API, where you could go and basically interact with their large language model. And what she was doing and her friends were doing is they had this game that they really liked online. Oh shoot, I can't remember the name of it. It's a casual game that's very popular in South Korea. And she has a bunch of friends who really like it. That's all anime characters and stuff. And she would take the strings out of the game for the characters, for one of the characters that she really liked, and dump it into that thing and tell it,
Like
"You're that
what they
character. Now
say.
talk to me." Yeah, like what? Right. What they
Okay,
say.
yeah, yeah.
Their
So
lines
that,
in the game,
yeah, gotcha.
and then
Okay.
talk to me like that, like you're that person. And so they were able to basically use the precursor of ChatGPT to create fake versions of the characters in the game and then interact with them and hang out with them and talk to them and stuff like that. And that's what they were using it for. They had no clue.
That's
They
cool.
didn't call it AI. They weren't talking about how, we're using a Python interface to an API or anything like that. They just knew, here's a box. I put the stuff in the box. I tell it to do this stuff, and then it does this stuff. And they were totally fine with it. Like their brains just went, yeah, this makes sense. It makes total sense. You should
Yeah,
be able to do that. That's a
yeah.
thing.
I
And
mean, but you should be able to just be like, all right, computer, I need you to do this, and then it just figures out how to do it. Why, like,
yeah.
why wouldn't they be
Everybody
able to
wants a
do that?
Jarvis.
Like,
Everybody wants a
yes,
Jarvis.
yeah,
that's
I
the
mean,
number
but
one
why
thing that people are
wouldn't,
building with this. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like, I mean, that should be what like the ultimate goal of computers like should be is a system like that, I would think, you know? Like,
Yeah,
hey, I need this, so do this, and then it just figures out how to do it.
yeah. Agreed.
Like even if it's not something that's like trained to do or whatever, like it'll just figure out how. Like that, I mean that to me, like yeah, I mean computers are just glorified calculators, but like if you're gonna put this much effort into it, like
Yeah. I'm trying to think here. There is a episode of this like it's this show on Netflix called Love, Death, Robots.
Oh, dude, that's
And
such a good show.
such a good show. Okay, so like my favorite episode, which also is another idea of how I think it'd be really cool to space travel without using fuel. So what they do is they make like that. It's I think it's like episode 4 of season 1, and they are transporting, right? They're transporting vessels, and you go to like hypersleep, right? And then you go in there, and then it launches your ship. And it'd be really cool, sidestepping on that note, it'd be really cool to be able to set up like very large coil rings to where if you can align everything correctly, you could just literally like electromagnetic uh like charge and launch like a shaft or a vessel and without using fuel, right? So then it would just start a coil and down it goes, right? Because in
Yeah.
space, you don't have to worry about that. So it would just go and then vice versa, it would catch itself at the other end and boom, 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 boom. And I thought that'd be really cool. But in this episode, he talks about how this like alien parasite somehow they got off course and it took over the whole vessel and it was feeding off of them, but it was like somehow entangled into his mind, the captain of the ship, and he had turned around and basically was just like being shown memories and stuff like that on that, and it just kind of goes into like the tech side of things, like maybe it wasn't really, it could have been an AI kind of deal where maybe at some point in time you relive those memories, where you don't have to work anymore. And this goes back to like what I keep bringing up in the other episodes, but you know, let's say Neuralink takes off to a point where you can just dump in and then you're able to have these sessions and do whatever you want, live this life, and then you were only asleep for 8 hours, but it feels like you lived this life, like that Rick and Morty episode.
Man, have y'all
So,
seen I don't think they're real, but like I've seen because I've seen a couple different memes and they're different people, but it's the same. Yeah. Same story on each one. People get head injuries and they like get knocked out and go into a coma for like a week or two and live a whole fucking life while they're in that coma. Get a
yeah.
wife, have kids and everything, and like literally live their whole life. And then they come out of the coma and they're back to where they were and like they go through like bad depression and stuff because like they had a
Hmm.
family that they loved and they're not there anymore because they didn't exist to start with, you know?
Oh, I'm sure everyone's done this, but one of my favorite or least favorite things is having a dream where you're trying to, there's something that needs to get done and you're trying to get it done and then you're almost done with it. And then you wake up and you're like, oh,
Oh,
wait,
dude. Yeah.
where,
I don't even care if it was like fake in a dream. Like, man, come on. At least let me have finished it. Like, that's gonna irk
right.
me the whole
Yep.
day. Like the
Hmm.
Yep.
whole day. I wonder how many times that happens and like we don't realize it, but then we just have that feeling all day like,
Well,
"Ah, I
yeah,
got
what,
something I gotta do. What was it?"
so they got the REM sleep, where your eyes move around and supposedly it's because you're dreaming at that point. But I gotta wonder sometimes if there's something like a chemical purge that your brain's doing right as you wake up that you have a memory of a dream, but it's not real. Like you didn't have the dream, you just have the memory of that dream.
Oh
And I've
man.
wondered sometimes if that's what some of my dreams are, because it's like, especially if I have like what I think is a long dream, but I was only, I only fell asleep briefly. And it's like, well, how did that work? Did I?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious. I wish I
Or
had extra lives that I could spend, learning everything because there's so much wild stuff out there.
dude,
I'd love
yeah.
to
Yeah.
learn everything about
I don't want to
neurology.
live forever, but man, I can go for a good like 10 or 20,000 years,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
totally
Oh
like
yeah.
if I could just be a
Or
robot so I don't feel pain and stuff at least like
yeah.
dude, yeah, let me live for like 10 or 20, 50,000
Well,
years even.
Okay, okay. So,
Not
hey,
not
you
forever,
bring that
but
up. So, there's a science group that they took I think it was a fly, a fruit fly, and they took all the sensories of this fruit fly and they put it into this virtual world. And they're like, don't treat it like it's a virtual world, like it's a game. Treat this
Oh,
thing
yeah,
like
no,
it's a
you
real
mentioned this a few
fly.
episodes ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
And
it's
it
so
does. And
crazy.
it's like
Yeah.
it's lived now for like 1 year total, and it's doing what a
Oh, it's
fruit fly would
still
do.
living.
Still going. Yeah.
Whoa, okay. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Huh, that's cool. Well, hey guys,
Yeah.
we're at the end. So yeah. It's been a fucking great episode, guys. Seriously.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
thanks everyone else for joining us. This is the Three
Thanks, guys.
Technoteers, and we'll see you next week.
All right.